Alright, so I guess I'm going to start this video off by burning myself with my hot glue gun. I just leaned in to start my camera and hit the tip of the hot glue gun. Alright, anyway, beyond that, I am building or fixing some of my snowflakes from last year. I bought 12 of these snowflakes from Charlie's Props up in Linden, Washington. When I bought them, he already had them pre-pixeled. They were ones he used in the past, but he had them all set up to where they were kind of daisy-chained together by solid connections. So there was like 3, 3, 2, 2, 3 or something. I don't remember. But if one of these went out or had a problem with it, I would have to take the whole chain of props down. So what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to change it and I'm going to fix it. And I'm going to put little plugs on each end of each prop so that each one will have its own ability to be removed and repaired and replaced rather quickly instead of having to fix them while they're outside. So, I'm not really going to walk you through like how I'm doing this. I'm just making a video to talk and share what I'm doing. A couple other things that I've been working on lately is my old Mega Tree. That was my 11-foot one. I took that one completely apart, dismantled it. Took all the pixels that were on that off, and I am currently using those pixels for other things, other props. I got some stars I'm going to do, I got some snowflakes I'm going to do, I got candy canes that I made. So, and the reason why I took all those apart is I am going to build a whole new Mega Tree next year. I'm building the 30-foot one, as if you've seen some of my other videos I've talked about that. So I'm going to replace all of those pixels with the exact same set of pixels. So not having, because I have to buy more because I only have 800 for the tree, and if I'm going to go to a 4,000 pixel tree, I want all of them to be from the same company, same pixel batch kind of thing. I keep hitting my light. I don't want to have any kind of weird random discoloration throughout the whole tree. So I am going to use those for other different props. Now, my matrix that's on the front of the house is still out on the front of the house because I haven't had time to take that down. Maybe I'll try to get that tomorrow or something. I have plans for that too. I'm going to build a bigger matrix for that. So all of those pixels that are on that prop will probably come down. I know there's a small batch of them, or a strip of them that are about 20 pixels long that aren't great. They were also a little bit discolored in the matrix, but you couldn't really tell unless it was all on one solid color. But during kind of like video features and stuff, you couldn't tell at all. But we know, right? We see those color changes and we're like, oh my god, that's horrible, we need to fix that. I do have one of these snowflakes that is also just like a shade of pink off. I had a lot of people, I asked them like, can you even tell? And they're like, no, we don't know the difference, but it's pretty obvious. Really, it really is. So one of these snowflakes, I marked it. I'm going to have to change all those pixels out and just throw them away. Or use them for something completely separate away from the snowflake batch, because you don't want discolored pixels and props that look funky. I had a lot of trouble last year mounting my snowflakes and my singing faces and my trees and stuff that were mounted to the front of the house. And I went online and I looked at a bunch of people's different like perspectives and how they mount, and a lot of people do have like stucco siding, so they're able to put little bolts and stuff in that and waterproof it and protect it. I have a wood siding panel, and I just really don't want to drill a bunch of holes into the side of my wood in the side of my house and put mounting clips. I did hang some from the eaves and the rafters from the roof. I put some fisheye hooks up there to make it so that I could hang things from, and that's what I did last year. But in the wind, they kept blowing around and flapping around and banging against the house, which was really, really annoying because as you're sitting here trying to sleep at night and the wind's blowing and banging against the house, it was loud. So my plan this year is, since I'm going to increase the amount of snowflakes that are going to be on the house and increase the, I'm going to have 2 large singing trees this year. My large singing bulbs, I think 18 snowflakes across the front of the house. Pretty much my goal is to make the whole front of the house one whole giant matrix type display, just with different props. So kind of a more high density image. My thought is I'm actually going to get the PVC piping clips that will hold the like half-inch PVC piping, and put that at the top of, like, right underneath the eaves, and then maybe just at the very, very bottom, back down towards the foundation, put a couple clips down there, and then build an entire PVC frame that will actually kind of outline the front of the house around the windows. And that way I can just mount the props to that. So once that whole frame is put up, then I could just have little attachments on here somehow, and then just walk up, just like click into place. That way if I need to move anything around quickly, I have ease of availability to do that. I have a ton of tiny pixels. Kind of mad I had to waste those, but it is what it is. So I hope that works out well, because I'm kind of excited about being able to mount everything to the house kind of on one big structure, and I'll paint it the same color as the house too, so that nobody would really even notice the PVC piping. Last year the PVC piping was very, very noticeable because it was white, the house is dark gray. Kind of made it for a weird contrast, and it didn't look great. I didn't like that, so I want to change it. So this year I'm going to try to focus on that. Beyond that, let's see, I bought a couple stuff boxes from Holiday Coro when they were doing their stuff box sale last week or 2 weeks ago now, and I got a ton of stuff out of there. I haven't even opened them yet. I stuck them in my back closet or my laundry room and said I'll look at these later, because just don't have time. Got too much to do, and since I don't really have pixels to put in them right now, I'm not going to worry about them opening them and put pixels in, because I don't have pixels yet, because I am waiting for the pre-sale from Holiday Coro. I just really like their company. I like their stuff. I've had a couple interactions with them where I've had a controller issue and I had to send a controller back to Texas. It took a few days for them to figure out what I was experiencing, but once he finally did, they replaced the controller, the CPU in the controller, added a second power supply at my request, and then sent it back to me. And I haven't had a problem since. So I ran my whole Christmas show without a problem. The only downside was I ended up not starting my show on time because it failed like right before Thanksgiving, so I had to send it down right before Thanksgiving, and I didn't get it back for about a week and a half. But they were pretty quick and good about it. Other than that, I've never had any problems with any of their other stuff. I haven't had any problems with any of their pixels. I've been running most of the pixels I have, or bullet pixels, are all from Holiday Coro. The pixels that I had last year that I thought was a good deal, I bought off of, what did I get? I think I got them off of Amazon through a third-party vendor, and they were like, oh, great deal, like 3,000 pixels or whatever it was for like $185. And I was like, sweet, no problem. Yeah, that turned out to be a bad idea. Don't do that. Majority of those I had to replace during my Halloween show, and a significant of them at the end of Halloween, I just ripped them out of all the props. I bought new pixels from Holiday Core, I had them ship them to me, and then replaced a ton of them. And I even went to a friend's house down the street who does a pixel show, Irwin Family Lights, and bought a bunch of pixels off of him to help replace my singing tree that was also the bad set of pixels that I bought. So, with all that, I don't know. I don't want to talk bad about the company where the lights came from originally, because what I've heard and read about is that it was possibly like an off-spec item or a returned item or something that didn't work, and this other third-party company got a hold of them somehow and sold them. So their product may be great if they're not bad in the first place, but I don't know. I didn't have good luck with them. I'm kind of hesitant to buy anything else from anybody else, but I know a lot of people use a lot of other products and they work great. So, yeah. So with these 48 pixel snowflakes, I thought about doing more high density snowflakes, but I like the way these ones look already, and I'm not going to worry about it. I'll just add more snowflakes at the front of the house. I got ends that are now, they have no plugs, so now I got to solder plugs on all of them. So that's what I'm gonna do today. I'm hopefully gonna get through all 12 of these. I also have a couple stars that I want to build today, and I do have enough pixels to get at least through one of those. So hopefully I'm gonna get through one of those. So one of the other things that ow! Jeez, that hurt. Jeez, got hit by a wire. My God. Nothing like a little blood, sweat, and tears in your props. The other thing I'm hoping to do, and I've already started this project too, is the power injection boxes that I am going to build. Let's start with that. I have a distro board, power distribution board, in one of my controllers because it fit, so I was able to put that in there safely without any issues. But my other 4 controllers, that did not work out well. My other 4 controllers do not have room for the power distribution boards. Distro boards, let's just call them that. So I am going to create distro boards that are going to be connected to the same controllers, because I have plenty of power in the controllers, especially once I add more power supplies, because each controller I'm going to bump them up to 2. Right now I only have 1 in each controller, except for the one that came back from Texas. So I'm hoping that I'm able to connect a distro board to it on an outside box. Smoke. So I bought these boxes off Amazon that are about yay big, and it's perfect enough room for the distro board to go in and then run a power supply line from the controller to that, and then have 4 power injection ports that will come out of that and head towards whatever prop needs power injection. I know a lot of people aren't into power injection, but you know what? If it's done good and easy, and now with the power injection tees, you can do quite a bit with it at minimal effort. All my strips are all power injected with just, I think I put 22 gauge wire that runs along all the strips and the tracks. I kind of regret that. I wish I didn't do that. I want it to be different, but I don't want to take the strips down because then they're going to look bad and I'll never get them back up the right way in the same way. So as the strips start going bad or start having issues, then I'll take them down and then I'll change those power injections to be different too. Plus, if you don't power inject, then you can't optimize your controllers. I know the Hinks picks, the one I have, I can do up to 680 pixels per SPI port, but if you do not have power injection, you're not going to be able to even get near 680. I think my 5-volt one Hinks picks, I can do about 170 pixels on at 100% white, and the last 3 or 4 will be, they'll be red, and then it slowly fades back up to white by the time you get to the end of it or the beginning of it. So yeah, I am really big on just optimizing and trying to get as much as I can out of each controller before I move on to buying more controllers. I know the long range receivers, I'm one of those too. I didn't realize exactly how that worked until this year. I didn't realize that you can only, if you have a Cat5 cable coming off of or an Ethernet cable coming off of the long range board on the Hinks picks into your long range receiver 1, and then you have that jump to the long range receiver 2, those both count. So you can only do like, what it would be, 340 or whatever it is. You can't do 680 and 680. It's 340, or if you have a bunch of them in a row, then it's like 100, 100, 100, and 100, all the way up to 680. I thought it would be, you could do like 680 off 1, 680 off 1, 680 off 1. But that's a whole different story. And if you do get into that stuff, go watch videos, because that's beyond me still. I haven't quite got there in my knowledge bank on how to fix those and do those. But as soon as I get to the point where I am maxed out on my Hinks picks and my long range, then I'll have a little bit better knowledge of how that stuff works. So, oh, I also recommend getting yourself a little light. This little guy, well, he's got 3 colors. Let's see here. Where's the button? Oh, there we go. Yeah, there we go. When you're soldering, makes it so much easier to see things. All right, getting back to some of these power cords here. This is a plug that I cut off of one of the strips that were on the Megatree. The Megatree strips, or not strips, the Megatree pixel lines, they didn't have an end. So they had a start, and then the very last pixel was just the end, just cut off. So you couldn't continue on any more pixels after that. So I didn't like that because I want to have a plug on each end. So what I did is pretty much cut those ends off and added 99 more pixels, and then, oh, I just cut that in the wrong way. Made it work to how I want it to work, and added a plug on the end of it to give me all the plugs that I need. I am rambling now because I am messing up my cord here. Let me cut this end off. So I now have a bunch of extra plugs, and I'm going to use these plugs to go on these pixels. They're pretty universal as long as you make sure you put the data line, the power line, and the ground line all in the same place. If you end up being like me and where I did a bunch of them and I wasn't paying attention, and I built a bunch of the props last year, and I put the wrong plug on the wrong side of the prop. So my data in plug was on the data out plug side. So when it comes from the controller, let's see, do I have one around here? The controller one is the one with the nut. Generally, this one with the nut. So I can never remember which one's male and which one's female, no matter how many times I've tried. Like the 50-50 thing just drives me crazy. So the one with the nut comes off the controller. The one with just threads and a pin, like that, that's the one that starts your prop. And I literally have a controller sitting right here, and every prop that I do, I look at the end of the plug and I look at what plug I need. I have so many times messed it up by being in a hurry and not paying attention and accidentally just soldering the wrong plug on. And then you have to go through and take the plugs off, cut them, resolder them, re-waterproof them. So a piece of advice, take your time, go slow, build your prop, plug it into a controller, turn it on, make sure it works. And what I do is I also have a test strip somewhere that I will plug in the end of, build the prop, plug it into the controller, make sure it works, and then I plug in another strip to make sure that it continually works to the next prop. There's been times where I've built a prop and then accidentally, or mistakenly, or however you want to say it, stupidly, did not solder good enough for the exit plug, or the data out plug, and I ended up plugging it in out in my yard, and I was like, why isn't this working? And at that point you're really stressed and frustrated because you're like trying to get your show going and your props all put up and something's not working, and you think it's your controller, or you think it's your system not working, when all reality all you did was just put the wrong data plug on the wrong side or soldered it wrong. So if you're going to start getting into really customizing your props, make sure you just take it easy. Take your time, go slow, don't rush. Alright, so I do not have like qualms about, oh my gosh, I messed up, I'm not telling anybody. One of my mistakes last year was quite embarrassing. And it was a total just like, oh, I could do this. So I have my singing trees are 12 volt lights, and it's in the middle of my house props that are 5 volt lights, and I plugged in my singing tree to a 5 volt controller that needed a 12 volt controller, and I couldn't figure out why the lights were super dim and then I couldn't see, or like they just wouldn't brighten up. So I'm like 100% power to that port. I was getting really frustrated. I was like, why isn't this working? Change settings, like change things in X lights, did all kinds of stuff. Couldn't figure it out. And then it dawned on me that I had it plugged into the wrong one. So I am tagging all of mine, and the ones that have 5 volts, I'm leaving these little tags on there. Like the data on them now, like all this information on this isn't going to make any sense, but at least the 5 volt is still on there, so that it reminds me exactly which port and which strip is 5 volts and 12 volts. As you start getting bigger and bigger in your display, you got to really start paying attention to what you're doing. I know some of the props or lights, you can see in there it says like the data plus 5 volts or 12 volts. But if you're outside and it's dark and you're trying to put your stuff together and you don't have very good eyesight, it's going to be really hard for you to see those little letters and numbers inside there. So yeah, that was kind of a mess. I really hated myself for that, and I was really mad at myself, and for no reason. I shouldn't have been that mad. It was a quick, simple fix. I just had to run the lead from the 12 volt controller that was in my yard to the prop on my house. Alright, so as I let this one sit, a couple more things that I've learned over the time of building these is get your wires connected, then test it, make sure they blink, light up, whatever, and then waterproof it. There's nothing worse than waterproofing it all and then having to cut that all out and start over. So, oh my gosh, what else should I talk about for a little bit? I'm letting this cool because I just put some hot glue inside there and made a little waterproofing port plug thing so that it doesn't leak and get damaged. I know when you start cutting in all these wires and have to waterproof them, it does leave you with the possibility of having wire cable failure. But at the same time, I don't want, like, all these wires, they're I think 5 feet long. So if I would have left all these on there, oh, I should not have touched that. Now they're all unraveled. That's another 5 feet of power and data loss that you're gonna have, and I don't want that, so I trimmed it up. I don't want cables that are just dangling everywhere. I like to have everything kind of crisp and clean. So this way, now that I have them shorter, and I add the new lines and wires and plugs and cables and cords and all to them, I'm actually gonna make those all custom too. At least the ones that go from the controller to the very first prop. Those are gonna be custom. All right, let's talk about real quick what it is that we do outside of our work or outside of our hobbies here. I get asked all the time what I do, and oh, my soldering iron's off. I had to take a phone call, so I turned off all my equipment, and now it's all off and cold. Yeah, I get asked all the time when people see my light show. They're like, "Oh, do you work at Boeing, or do you work at Microsoft? Are you some sort of electrical engineer or mechanic?" No, I am not in any way involved in any kind of engineering degree services at all. I just got into this business of creating these props and stuff because I thought it was really fun and looked really cool, and I decided to just start doing research online and looking up videos on YouTube and going on to other websites and forums and asking questions. And I started doing it, and now it's really kind of taken off and become a big hobby. There's a lot of really good videos out there from a lot of different creators who have done this forever. Everybody has their own way of doing things. Some work for others, some don't work for others. One of the gentlemen that Gore, dude, I don't remember his name now. He participated in the Purple House Light Show that I organized this year for my friend's party or for birthday. I asked him about his arches because his arches looked really cool in his video, and I was like, okay, I want to make my arches look like yours. So he told me what he did, and I went on to McMasterCard and ordered a pallet of HDPE, I think, high density polyurethane piping. And it is currently out in my front yard, covered in bricks, laying flat, because I don't want them for arches now. I'm not going to do arches. The arches I put on my roof, I thought they looked great, but they were so much of a hassle. They kept falling down. The PVC piping I had those in kept cracking. I had the pixel strips actually inside pool noodles, and those pool noodles were getting eaten away by birds and bugs. So those all just got destroyed. I threw those all away. So what I'm gonna do now is take the high density polyurethane piping. I got 2.5 inch tube. I'm gonna put it along the top of the apex of the roof, and possibly on the angles. I have some angles too that I don't have lights on. I'm gonna put those in that, and then put those on the roof, but I need them to be straight and flat. So when it came on the pallet all curled up into a tiny not tiny, it was a big pallet. But it was a tight wound pallet of piping. It did not want to straighten out easily at all. So I laid it in the front yard, covered it with some bricks, and when I put it up on the roof, hopefully it stays where I want it. I bought some shingle clip bands that have little mounts on them. I'm gonna have to modify those a little bit. I'm gonna put them on the roof, lay the piping on it, and then there's possibly just zip tie them all along those so they hold down. But there's nothing really out there, and I don't want to drill into my roof, and I don't have any ability to mount things to the shingles without damaging the shingles. So I'm gonna do the little shingle apex clips that I bought and put that piping that's out in my front yard on those, and I'm hoping it looks good. It looks really good in X-Lights on the program, and it looks really good when I put strips inside of them just out in the front yard and turn them on, and it gives a nice even distribution of light. And using the pixel strips that I have, it looks good. So alright, this thing should be warm enough now. I also recommend it, like, if you're getting into this hobby, don't go cheap. Buy good stuff. Buy a good soldering iron. Why does soldering, whenever you solder, why does it blow right into your face no matter where you are? It always comes right at my face. Good core soldering iron, a good soldering gun. Everything to make your day easier. Because if you're going to buy the cheap stuff, you're just going to have to fix it and repair it later. Like I mentioned a little bit ago, these wire tie or wire solder tubes, I don't even know if they're all wire connectors, the waterproof wire connectors that I have, they're not doing great. They don't shrink down, and they don't melt in the middle. This little soldering point here, that little soldering point, when it gets hot, it shrinks down and then melts, and then it connects your wires together. It's not melting easily, so I'm having to hold the soldering gun to it for a little bit longer, and it's not, I don't know. Some of them I feel like they melt really, really fast, and they don't have issues. But I have about 1,000 of these, so I'm gonna go through it. It just takes more time. I don't like wasting my time on stupid stuff, and I feel like I'm wasting my time on that, so. Alright, I am gonna connect all these, so I'm gonna have to run the heat gun, which gets loud, so I'll be right back. Alright, so I just tried to make a little bit of a video portion there while I was showing people how to use the heat gun and these little shrink wrap thingies, but it didn't work out well in my favor. So I'll just talk about it a little bit. When you do the oh my god. When you do the heat shrink wrap little connectors, you want to make sure that you're not pointing your gun at any of the other wires, or you will start melting the plastic casing on the other wires, and then you'll just kind of be a mess. You want to point it at the little soldering point here and let that soften it up, and then eventually it'll melt down inside and shrink down, and when it melts you'll see a little bit of like a liquid metal come through. At that point, that liquid solder is now touched every surface of the wire, so you can move to the edges to the left and right and heat shrink the little connector part here that is the center. These little red parts here, I know you can't really see the red parts, but there's red parts. Those red parts are what actually make it waterproof. You don't need to do extra waterproofing like I do with the hot glue gun. It just is my preference. Everybody has their own preference. Do what you want to do. One of the complications of this is I'm going from a red, green, and white cable to a black, red, and green cable to a black, yellow, red cable. So you've got to pay attention when you're doing this kind of soldering. So the red one here goes to the red one. So red is red, that's great. And then the white one is going to be your negative. Negative white here is going to black. So black to black. And then my green to yellow. Generally data is green or yellow. That's just kind of the industry standard. green and yellow. Let me see if I can record this time doing this one a little bit better and not be so fumbly with my camera and making it look horrible, because that last video did not work well. Alright, so we're going to do the black one here. It's kind of funky. I can't really see my camera, so I don't really know what I'm recording. Wire goes in, wire goes in. Sometimes you just kind of got to twist it a bit to make sure they meet up together in the middle. You want to have, I generally have each wire overlapping each other. I know some people, they don't do it that way. I cannot get these wires to line up at all. Oh my gosh. What is wrong with this wire? Give it a little twist. There we go. Now they're overlapping. I like to have them overlapping. You don't want to go too much farther than overlapping. Like, you don't want to go like over the casing, because then that might just make a bad connection. But each wire over the center. Oh, come on, stop moving. It just keeps popping out. There we go. Now the wires and wires are on top of each other, and the solder ring is over both of them. When you're soldering these together, if you are using the heat gun, you want to make sure you point it directly at the centerpiece first. At least that's what I do. If there's tension or any kind of pivoting point where there's the cords are going to move, as you start heating this up, it will shift apart and then bend and be all funky looking, like that one is there, the red one. You just want to make sure that you don't get that, because once it starts separating, then it either is going to stretch, get ripped apart, the solder's not going to meet up correctly. So you want to make sure it doesn't move as much as possible. And I do not recommend using your finger to hold it. So if you have a pair of needle nose pliers or something, you can just kind of guide it. Okay, I can't even hold that still. There we go. Guide it into place so that it doesn't move. All right, gun on, gun's on low. After about 10 seconds, you start seeing the plastic melting. After about 30 seconds, you'll see the metal start shrinking. I am getting a little bit of shift in there. I'm kind of not happy about that. But I got plenty of overlap, it should be fine. Now I got the metal, or the stuff inside has now liquefied, so I know it's over all of it. I'm going to go to the left here, shrink down that side and the little plastic, go to the right, shrink down the plastic on that side. And at this point, once those red bands shrink down and seal, and you watch the color change from clear to, or from like a frosted white to a more clear, then you know it's completely sealed, and it is waterproofed. And then you want to give it a second to cool, because if you try to pull it apart right now, it's just going to separate because it's hot and liquidy. You can blow on it. All right, there we go. Ooh, that's hot. That's hot, but it is solid. It ain't going anywhere. All right, I am going to do just one more part of the video here, and I'm just going to show you guys how I do my waterproofing with this black tubing. Turn that off. Before you solder your wires together, make sure you put that tubing on there, because once you solder it together, you cannot cut the wire or cut the shrink wrap for waterproofing and then wrap it around it. That does not work. You have to have it completely solid one piece. And if you are cutting and splicing any wires with the little nut end on it, make sure you keep the nut end on at all times. I've had them before where they have fallen off pre-solder, and then I solder them, and then you lose the nut. The nut is what's going to keep your light cables together and keep them waterproof. Don't lose those. You cannot put those back on afterwards either. That does not work. So, what I do, I'll take the little sheet or sleeve, I slide it over, slide. It covers both ends, so I'm not don't have to worry about trying to do one end or the other. If I slide it that way, it'll expose one end. If I slide the other way, it'll expose the other end, just like that. right in the center. And this is where the hot glue gun comes in. Multiple people, again, they have different ways of doing this. This is just how I do it. Stick it in there, go squirt, 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 squirt. Starts coming out a little bit. Jump to the other side. I'm gonna go squirt, 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 squirt. And sometimes you end up wasting a lot of hot glue when you do this. It's just hot glue. I don't care. And then heat shrink. Shrink, shrink, shrink. As you're heat shrinking, you're gonna see the glue squirting out. If the glue is not squirting out, you did not put enough. So if it is squirting out, then you know it is going to be sealing up just nice, because it's going to be mushed all around all those wires, covering everything and making a good seal on both ends. You don't have to do what I'm about to do, but I do it anyway because it cleans it up a little bit and makes it look a little nicer. Heat shrink. And you don't want to heat shrink too fast or too long, because it will start melting the plastic inside. And if you start melting the plastic inside, it's going to make your cables disconnect. And then I just kind of squish it. Ooh, hot shit. And then this hurts. Don't recommend if you got sensitive fingers, but I like to take the hot glue that's coming out of each end and I roll it around each end just to make sure it's got a complete seal. Now, hot glue on your fingers hurts, but I've been doing this for a long time. My fingers are pretty, not as sensitive. The tips of them are all pretty destroyed from working in a warehouse, working on cars, burning them. I had my hands burned when I was a kid, so I don't have a whole lot of sensitivity in my fingertips. But sometimes it does get me by surprise, and it does hurt. So, yeah, there. Look at that. Nice and clean looking. Ish. I'm going to hit this end really quick one more time, because this one looks like it could shrink down a little bit more. There we go. Yeah, there you go. That's tightening up. Perfect. And then just let it sit and rest. It is hot inside of that thing, so you want to make sure you let it rest for a little bit before you move it around too much. If you move it around too much and you did, in fact, weaken the plastic connectors that are inside, that'll separate, and then your plug's not going to work. Again, like I recommended earlier, make sure you test it before you just walk away. So I'm going to plug the port in. This is going to the start line. That one lights up. And then I have a second one down here on the floor that I'm going to plug this end into. And that one lights up. And I'll show you just to prove it. Yay, it's green. Yay, I like green. Alright, let's throw that down there. Okay, I'm going to end this video here because I don't really have much more to talk about at this moment. Maybe I'll grab one of my boxes and start doing an unboxing video. Have a good day, guys.